shirt say poop on it?
No, it says Tweety and Pop.
Tweety and Pop. Oh, it looks like poop.
It looks like POPP, but I guess if you kind of ignore one of the stems there, yeah, it can.
Yeah, I ignore what I want.
Yeah, no, that's the thing about you, is you kind of like ignore lines and letters sometimes in a cool way. To
I ignore boundaries.
You ignore boundaries, yeah, you ignore when people are talking and you just interrupt whenever you have like a random thought that you just like need to get out there that has nothing to do with whatever we're talking about.
I ignore societal norms.
Yeah. No, you usually aren't wearing any clothes whenever we do this.
Coming from you? We're
Well,
really
look,
start throwing that out there right now?
I I've been to the nude beach in Seattle too many times, and I can't be clothed anymore.
It's so grating on your skin.
It's just, yeah, it's just unnatural, all the cloths and all the weavings.
You can't live in a cotton prison, you know?
Exactly.
I get it.
If anyone out there, if there's a nude beach in your city, you gotta check it out. It feels so nice.
There's anyone out there that wants to see a 65-year-old man's balls at a beach location? You gotta go.
It just feels nice, dude. It feels nice to have the wind kind of flowing through your ass crack, kind of making a little whistle sound,
Oh, Jesus Christ, through your hairs.
Letting some air in there.
Butt hairs.
Yeah.
Dude, are you one of those people that like tans your butthole in the sun? You know those people?
I would, but I have to tan everything else with it.
You can't, so your butthole can't be darker than the rest of your butt. That's just embarrassing.
No, it's just I wish there was like a tiny inch long like circle of light that I could direct onto the specific spot I wanted, but that's just never the case.
It's called the light of God.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's his little spotlight. It's his little spotlight on you. I always wondered all the people that like tan their buttholes or, like expose their genitals to the sun or whatever. And I feel like if you're tanning your butthole, like you kind of like have to spread your butt to do it. So it's like, do both your cheeks just have giant handprint like tan lines?
I've heard of bleaching your asshole.
I've heard of people saluting the sun with their asshole.
Yeah, I feel like you definitely have to spread then.
Yeah, right? And then that would just give like two fucking giant hand tan lines on your butt.
Or you know what? Maybe next time I go with Riley and Devin, I can have each of them take a cheek. And I could just
have hands on there.
I could just lay pretty. Yeah.
I assume that's how you did it anyway, but you just have hands on there, so you're still gonna have tan lines.
I mean, that's fine.
Shark Tank idea.
As long as the area, the under area itself has a nice kind of bronze tan on it.
As long as the job's getting done, I guess. But that's a Shark Tank idea.
Yeah, I think we could probably work on that some other time.
Some sort of device that spreads your butt cheeks that doesn't leave tan lines, so you can tan your asshole.
Yeah.
At a nude beach.
I mean, we got like an hour of free time. Did you want to talk about that on this episode, or
is that not what we're talking? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Well, I just wasn't expecting it. I just didn't do the research. I'm sorry. You
have first-hand experience. You're my focus group.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I have the people I go to, and I still get those little finger, tan lines, of course.
Yeah. See, it's a problem. It's a problem that we need to solve.
Yeah, I just haven't researched the patents or anything yet.
Yeah, I don't know if anything's out there yet. I feel like you could just use like those what do they call them? Like scepters? No, not scepters. The things that like spreads women's labias for birthing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what they're called. I guess that could work.
I think that could work, but we'd have to make it clear. All right,
Or
we
maybe.
should save this for another time. This is getting
Oh,
complicated.
okay.
Oh, yeah. You
All
know what
right.
pisses me off? You know what pissed me
What?
off today?
Something grind your gears?
I've been really grinded my fucking gears. I listened to our latest album review episode, the
Bubba?
Bubba, the Kate Renata episode.
Yeah.
Um, it really pisses me off that my $50 gaming headset sounds just as good as my $200 microphone when recording this podcast. Really pissed me
Yeah.
off. Yeah, when I heard it, I was at first I was worried that it was going to sound really bad, and then I got mad that it sounded just as good.
You know, for like podcasts and stuff, you really don't need to spend too much on mics, especially if you're doing like post production EQing and stuff.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
like I see all these YouTubers that have these like $3,000 microphones, and I don't think that's necessary.
I mean, they have the money, so they might as well,
But
right?
what's the point?
There is none. They just
Yeah.
see it like, oh, what was that dude's name from Parks and Rec? He was like the energetic one that had all these inventions and companies.
Oh, Aziz Ansari?
Yeah, Aziz. Yeah, he had a bit where he was looking for the most expensive toothbrush, the best quality toothbrush. And he thought, like, why am I doing this? It was like
Yeah.
no one died from not having motorized like toothbrush stuff on their teeth. And I feel
I
like that's kind of how these people who have the money anyway go about it, who like get the studios and get the decorations and all this
yeah.
production.
All the
Um,
lights that like just change colors gradually in the background and stuff. And it's
yeah,
just like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
funny how like YouTube shows, quote unquote, have this like very generic production design now because like everyone's just doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There are some interesting celebrity podcasts. Like just the other week or 2 weeks ago, Rainn Wilson interviewed Serge Tonkian.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, from System of a Down, the singer.
Yeah, yeah, that's good enough.
Uh, and I thought it was like, I don't know. I've seen a couple clips from it. It's interesting enough. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I the oddest thing about the celebrity podcasters is that they've like a lot of them have stuck to it. I honestly thought it'd be a thing they do for like 12 episodes and then they drop off because they like ran out of, I don't know, things to talk about.
No, because it's such a moneymaker for them because of all the advertisers that are on their shows that they like pay them to read ads
Sure.
for them. There's a lot of money in that. And if you have enough listeners, people will pay. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched a podcast of a YouTube celebrity who had like 6 ads within the hour and a half podcast.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess one of them was BetterHelp.
Um,
They
I've heard
seem to
about.
sponsor every single podcast.
I always skip past the ads, but BetterHelp has been on a lot of them. That is a scam company.
The
Do
scam.
not get BetterHelp.
Yep.
Uh,
I just recently heard how fucked up they are, like their business
yeah,
practices. Yeah.
and it's not even like recent. Like the controversy
Yeah.
with them happened a while ago.
Dude, did
But
I
it's
tell you
just
about the
popping up
Lulu?
again.
I told you about Lululemon, right?
I don't think so.
That the owner, the founder, the guy who made Lululemon, the reason why he named it that.
Why?
This is out there. Like this is information that is out there. He named it Lululemon because he thought it would be funny when Asian people tried to pronounce it.
Really?
The
He said that?
he is quoted saying that.
Damn, dude. What the
Like
fuck?
the name of
Why?
that company is a racist joke, and they're so fucking popular.
I mean, they're huge, yeah.
Huge. It's insane. Like when I heard that, I was like, "There's no way that's real." And then he's like quoted in some interview or something saying it.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I'm honestly I'm also like honestly very surprised at how many celebrities have stuck with it. I'm surprised at how many comedians started podcasts as comedians and now they're just podcasters.
Sure. I guess like Joe Rogan is the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, calling him a comedian is very
Well,
generous, but
I
he's
believe that that was his first occupation before Fear Factor.
yeah, he was an actor and a comedian, and he was horrible at both. But I'm
Sure.
thinking like Tom Segura. I know he's still doing stand up, but he fucking sucks now. Like he's just a
Oh,
podcaster now.
damn.
Like Andrew, what's that dumbass's name with the Hitler haircut?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not in tune with comedians of the day.
Well, anyway, a lot of them just like straight up only do podcasting now. But
Yeah,
my
why?
favorite. Oh, go ahead.
No, there was this writer that wrote for like Mr. Show, and Between Two Ferns. His name was like Scott Bockerman or something.
Oh, I've
He's like
heard of this
stuck doing
guy.
this nowhere podcast called Comedy Bang Bang. You
Probably Bing
know,
Bong or some shit.
Comedy Bang, like I don't know, Come and Bake, maybe.
Come and bake. Yeah, I never heard of
Um,
the guy, but
it's sad.
all power to him.
Yeah.
But my favorite like podcast setup, and I don't even watch the podcast, but I've seen clips of it. Is I fucking hate this guy, Bill Maher.
Oh, the like the bald guy who always kind of talks like this.
No, Bill
No.
Maher has hair.
Okay.
He has that Real Time with Bill Maher show on HBO. He's like he talks really condescendingly like this, and he delivers all his jokes like he could, like he's
Hmm.
just so above it all, you know. But
Cool.
what I love about his podcast is that it's just him and one other person. They're sitting on like what look to be two really comfy chairs right next to each other with like a little table bar in between them, and he just
Yeah.
has like tons of different bottles of alcohol. And as far as I can tell, on every episode, first thing he does when he starts the conversation is he lights up a blunt, and he's just sitting there getting high
Jesus
and
Christ.
interviewing celebrities. And it's funny that you mentioned Rainn Wilson because Rainn was on a recent episode of that show, and it was actually like really funny.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but that's my favorite setup. Like that it looks so cozy, and it feels like the most like a conversation of any other podcast that I listen to, like of that style.
Sure.
It feels much more of like they're just talking as if the mics weren't there. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it could be uh in the same way that you kind of weirdly take on this heightened version of yourself whenever you're in front of a camera. The same thing can kind of happen on mic and on a podcast, and it could be hard to like keep a natural feeling to it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself like not talking like myself sometimes when we're recording. And I'll be like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
No, yeah. It feels the same way for me. Like, even though we've been doing this for I think going on 3 years, um, it's just a very weird state because you just know everything is like I don't know. The first podcast you ever record, you're gonna sound absolutely dull and bored
Yeah. Yeah.
and damper, and it's not for any reason other than it's like theater where you kind of have to play this heightened version of yourself to
Mhm.
get the feelings you're actually feeling across. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true. And I think a lot of times like people yell when they have a microphone, and it's
Sure.
and so you realize you're like, oh, I can just talk normally, but then talking normal sounds like this. So you're just kind of like chilling and like whatever. And then that's not really entertaining to listen to, and it's actually like fucking boring.
It's hard. And it's another thing about podcasting that I've noticed through the years is just that each pause with silence in it feels 3 times longer when listening to
Yes.
it than recording it.
God, I remember that when we first started. Any 1.2 second pause in between what like any dialogue felt like I would feel my shoulders start scrunching up, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
like any dead air feels like pain.
And it's not like we're like constantly interrupting each other, but it's 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 just weird and it's different and it's something you got to adjust to.
Yeah, for
Um
sure. It's crazy how comfortable we've gotten, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I I feel like I might have even gotten too comfortable again because I've felt myself going back into the and like and
Right.
kind of sector of my speaking, which I used to be so much better about, but I've fallen back into old habits. And for the first podcast I did, where I noticed that was a problem, I literally had to have a sheet of paper
I remember
that
you
said
told
like,
me.
like no, no, like just to remind myself. Damn
Yeah.
it.
I say like a lot. But I think is the biggest thing for me, especially when I'm doing the weed reviews. It's really hard not to, because when you're sitting there thinking, it's because of what we just said. You don't want dead air.
You
So
don't
you
want dead
just go,
air.
and like you kind of fill in the spots when it's so much better if you just take the moment to think of your thought and then
Yeah.
say it. And anyone else that is listening, a 1.2 second pause doesn't feel that weird, you know?
I don't know. It like it's just a different medium, and I have a respect for the people who have kept on it a lot longer than I thought they would be.
Yeah, us.
Yeah, us for one. We got through the whole fucking pandemic, and we're
Yeah,
on the other side, and we're still doing it.
yeah, for sure. And we're not doing it because we're making any money or anything from it. Just doing it because it's fun.
Yeah, man. And I feel like today's topic for our chit chat is maybe a little more um fuck, I did again. It's a little more like personal and a little
Yeah.
more just kind of us speaking off the cusp than having any notes or any critical thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. What's up, buds, and welcome to the new episode of the Earbuzz Podcast, the podcast where two friends usually talk about one album for a certain amount of minutes. But today we're going to be talking about just a topic about music. It's a chit chat, baby.
It's a
It's a chit
chit
chat.
chat. Hell yeah. I love doing these. It's
Yeah,
been honestly kind of hard to come up with fresh ideas. There have been a lot of, I don't know, we could do a lot of like genre stuff. But
yeah.
it's really, I don't know. I'm excited to talk about what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and if you guys have read the title of the episode, then that's probably why you clicked play, so you already know. But we are going to be talking about kind of what it takes to be in a band and our experience of what it takes to not just form a band, but also keep the band going and,
Yeah.
keep interested and stay motivated and inspired. Yeah, this is obviously very personal to me and you. So,
Yes.
how many bands have you been in your life?
I did the list. These are all bands that have had like at least one original song and I've spent like a good amount of time on. I've had countless other failed bands, but I've had 9 bands, 8 that I've founded. Can you guess the
Damn,
one band that I did not create?
burn band. No,
Yeah, it's
Mortalis.
Burn Band.
Or was it Mortalis?
It was Mortales, my man.
Yeah, that was the band that we were in together. For the
Yeah,
listeners wondering, that is actually how me and Ash met. She, but actually, fucking, this is okay. This kind of gets into it. A huge prop to you, and a crazy way that we found you was Craigslist. You just posted that you were a drummer looking to join a band, and
yeah.
we were on Craigslist looking for drummers. And I never would have thought to do that. I think Luis mentioned like, why don't we just look on Craigslist and see if like anyone's posted? I'm just like, you really want to find a fucking crusty homeless drummer on Craigslist?
I mean, Craigslist has a pretty bad rap for good
Yeah,
reason, but
yeah, for sure.
my memory is that I'm the one that found y'all on Craigslist. Y'all did an ad, and
Uh,
I remember it because y'all had the picture of Luis's motorcycle mirror, and the 4 of you were in it, and I was I think I have told you before, but I was so close to fucking ignoring y'all and writing you off because you called yourselves Narcore.
yeah, in the ad,
In the ad, yeah.
that
It
was
was
all
like,
me.
Yeah, that's
I don't remember that, but that's hilarious.
but I think I don't even remember if I got to listen to any of y'all's music before we met up, but
Yeah,
I
I don't remember sending you anything before. I mean, that was fucking 7 years ago or something, 8 years ago.
yeah,
I really don't
but
remember.
I remember well we met at the Blue Moon Cafe. I was
Summer Moon.
terrified of driving there,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I that was something I learned way after you being into the band that like driving made you really nervous and you hated doing it.
yeah,
And every
yeah.
time you came to band practice, you were driving half an hour to like both ways.
Yeah, no, and it was also the y'all are the first and only band I've been in that practiced 2 times a week when I
Yeah.
met you,
Yeah.
which
For
was
3 hours at a time.
yeah, no, and they were not short.
No,
Um,
and we would go over a lot of times and but it was also a hangout. It was awesome.
it was also really fun, yeah. And like
Yeah.
before the band practice, we would hang out. After the band practice, we would like I don't know, strap a couple on, have some of that nasty pickle beer or whatever, and like watch
Oh
something on
God.
Luis's TV.
Dude, playing Super Smash like at the end of practice and
Yeah,
freaking Mario
yeah,
Kart and jamming records and yeah, man, that was a really cool thing about like having Luis's place to be able to jam in because like you can't do that really at like a jam like facility or whatever, like a band
yeah,
practice room or whatever. So yeah, it made it very very special. We were getting
yeah.
high, we were fucking like it was awesome, man.
I felt like it was a great environment and something that I didn't know until like 2 months after I joined the band is I always thought we got together at like 4 o'clock because that was what time we got together the first time we got together, but it was actually 5. And so
Yeah,
each time I was getting to Luis's house an hour early, and he never said shit.
I think he just loved having you there.
Maybe, man. I would feel like, oh, these fucking guys are always late. What's with this?
Fucking stoner.
And I remember I got there late one time. I got there at like 4:15. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. And he's like, oh yeah, you almost were late for being an hour early.
Well, it's
Oh
like
well.
you've always said, if you're 45 minutes early, you're an hour late, So
Yeah, yeah. And I've
that's always been
always
your
held
thing.
that belief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy that you've been in 9 bands
Yeah, yeah. And only like I don't know, only 3 or 4 of those have had stuff on like streaming services.
and like played
Um,
shows. Did you play shows with all those bands or?
I've played at least one show with all of these bands. We've
Damn.
made at least like one original. Um, the
How many
most
of those bands played only one show?
there was my first band Havoc, which was a metal band
Okay.
that we played one show at Red 7 and I called it quits cuz I didn't like playing metal.
Yeah. Okay. Were you playing like a lot of speed metal? What kind of metal was it?
It was mostly Metallica covers. We had
Okay.
one original, but it was a lot of Metallica, a lot of Megadeth. There was Half Juice with these dudes from high school. There was Soul Distortion, which is still going to this day without me, but I did name
Really?
it. So
That's
I
crazy that they're still going.
yeah no I they only just recently like released a couple singles, um,
Wow.
which yeah I don't know there's been a lot of bands. I've been in a lot of bands, all with
Yeah.
varying amounts of degree. Never too much, I would say Mortales and Burn Band got the furthest by
Right.
far. Mortales having been like our last album was reviewed by all these different people on the internet, all these cool like music
Bloggers.
critics,
Yeah.
and we played
We
with a
were on
lot
a
of
couple
cool bands.
podcasts. We had a couple interviews on some podcasts. We
Yeah.
got offered a lot of shows, which I think is that's a bit of a sign that you made it to a certain
Oh
next
yeah.
rung of a ladder, where like people are wanting you to play with them and
But I really want to get into the nitty gritty because like it didn't start off that way, and we got to
right.
talk about how we got there. But first, I came in probably a year or two after this band started
Yeah, I think you came in
because we
um
were just finishing Look Alive.
yeah, so you came in right, I think right after a year or a year and a half after we started. And it was crazy because in that year and a half, we'd written a demo, like a six
Yeah.
song demo. And then we started writing and recording the actual first live album, like you said, Look Alive. And we were in the middle of recording that, I think, and our drummer decided to leave Austin and move to Denver. And
Yeah.
that we were literally in the middle. Were we in the had we recorded any of Look Alive when you joined? Or
You had. I
I
have
thought
the
so.
let me pull it up right here real quick. I was listening on the way over. But you had recorded Psychic Violence, Nothing Good Happens After Midnight, Stab Repeatedly, Overflows, Vampires.
Okay, so half the record.
It
Yeah.
was it was a little more than half the record. I came in, we added like three or four more songs and like an intro. That was just a jam that we were fucking with.
Yeah, man, that was such a like heartbreaking moment when Andy decided to move. Like
I'll
I thought the
bet,
band was
yeah.
I thought it was over and it was the my favorite music that I've ever written, and I was so disappointed because um so the history of how that band even started. So like here's we're this chit chat is about our band a little bit, but we're going to be talking about like the trials and tribulations of trying to form a band and be in a band and in a band and everything. So like that'll all be part of the conversation. Like
So should we
you'll,
start from the top? Like,
I almost want to start from the beginning where like I, why I formed Mortalis and,
well,
uh,
you were in the Rude Boys first,
oh,
right?
well, yeah. If you want to talk about my history real quick, yeah, I was only in, okay, I think I'm a serial monogamist in general, and I have treated bands like I've treated the women that I've dated, and I've had about three bands in my whole life. But I was in those bands for
Yeah,
like 4 or 5 years each. So
sure. Yeah.
yeah. So my first band was in high school. We were a ska punk band, like Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake stuff. And that was we were called the Seabrook Rude Boys. And we were together for like 4 years, I think. And then I took a couple of years off, didn't really even think about music at all. And then I started buying weed from this guy in college. And at one point, he like I think I saw an acoustic guitar in the corner of the living room, and I was like, "Oh shit, man, you play guitar?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah." And so every time he'd come over, we'd kind of just talk about music a little bit. And eventually, he showed me his spare bedroom, and there was like 9 guitars and a drum set
Oh
and a
shit.
bass and a piano and all this stuff. And his roommate played piano, and my buddy Chris plays drums, and Chris was going to college with me. So like all of a sudden we would come over and like buy weed and we would just start kind of jamming every now and then, and then that became a band.
Hell
And
yeah, dude.
yeah, that band was called The People Look Like Flowers.
I
Uh
don't think you've ever really talked about that one very much.
that's one of those that we played one show, but we
Mm.
practiced and wrote an entire album. Like, but we only played one show, and it was very indie, like think Arcade Fire type music. Like that's what we were
Hmm.
listening to at the time, like Arcade Fire and what is that? Oh, Cold War Kids and that
Oh
type of
sure,
stuff.
yeah, like the Decemberists and
Yeah, just yeah. I was half the songs I was playing acoustic guitar, and
sure,
like
yeah.
we had stand up bass on our whole album and everything. So it was like
Ooh,
we had banjo and mandolin and piano and everything. It was one of those bands, and it was really really fun. Uh, and then yeah, we did that for like a solid year or 2 years of just like jamming and hanging out and having so much fun. And then we played one show. It went fucking amazingly. And then right after that show, we basically just stopped
why?
because, well, I can point to something very specific because again, just like most other bands I've been in, uh, except for Mortalis, I feel like I'm always kind of the driving force in the bands I'm in when I'm trying to
Mm,
start something. Like I
yeah,
feel, and that's something that it's like you have to be really headstrong and proactive if you want to
yeah,
start a band and keep that band going because people just have so much trouble committing to something that
yeah,
if there's not one person wrangling the cats for every week
yeah.
to get together, the shit just completely dissolves.
Yeah,
And
well, let's
it
talk
happens
about
so
that.
easily.
Let's talk about that because that is a huge part of being in a band at all. Is
Yeah.
that honestly, unless it's a very, very slight exception, like 2% of bands, there's always going to be kind of a leader. And there's always
Yes.
going to be this driving force. It's the same thing as like if you are on in like a softball league or if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or something, a band is a responsibility that you got to invest time into.
Just like a podcast, man. This podcast
Yeah.
wouldn't have continued if both of us weren't proactive and like trying to keep this shit going, you know?
Yeah.
Like this shit doesn't magically just happen. So you do end up having have to have a leader kind of, but me and you have both kind of we're both kind of like co-leads with
I mean,
this. Like
yeah.
but with the band in college, with the band in high school, I think I could safely say that like I was the driving force in like, let's get shows, let's record,
Yeah.
let's write a new song,
Yeah.
let's learn this cover. You know, it was always like kind of me driving it. And it was because I was probably in most cases I was the one most excited about it and most, like
Sure.
and it's kind of like sometimes you do have to drag some people along with you to like get your vision to see your vision come to fruition and everything. And
Yeah.
it's so weird because being in a band is really fun, but it's a lot of fucking work too if you actually want to fucking do it.
Yeah, it's the thing where like you you have to there has to be that driving force in the band because it can being in a band is very vulnerable, and if there's no like driving force, it could be a lot of jamming and a lot of just vibing, which is fine, but
Yeah.
it's hard to get people to really commit to something like this.
And I don't
And
understand why.
well, as a person who's been in 9 bands, it's been kind of hard for me to commit lately. Like I've really tried to. I've really put in an effort. Um, but it could be kind of heartbreaking going through this stuff. And like
Yes.
especially if you're at the point where you have some songs like okay, let's record something. Okay, let's go out and get shows. That means we have to if you're not established, that means we have to go out to shows of music we're playing and like talk to people and make connections and maybe talk to the venue and get a demo recorded. And it'd be great if we had some merch to make some money so that we
Yep.
could like afford some studio time. So we
Yep.
got to make some merch and someone's got to be in charge of all that and you got to put a lot of money into it. And
Hmm.
it's kind of this thing that you got to dump a lot of money, time, creative energy into if you really want to get something going.
Yeah, I remember spending a whole weekend like just taking band photos just to have promotional photos. Like spending a
Yeah,
whole day making a press kit for Mortalis, like there
yeah,
was
yeah.
just there's so much time and money that goes into it if you're really trying to do something with it. If you're just trying to
I,
chill and have fun, a band is real easy.
I
Like
you you remember one of the hardest fucking workhorses in Austin. Um, the leader of it was I don't think it was Billy King's Burger Patrol, but it was
you mean Rickshaw Billy's Burger Patrol?
Rickshaw Billy's Burger Patrol.
Or are you
Uh,
thinking Billy King and the Bad 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 or
Billy
something?
King and the Bad Bad Bads.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that guy? All that guy would do before, after the show, talking to people, giving people his number, giving people his
Mm.
like Facebook contacts, hitting people back up. Uh, Pretty much. I mean, it seemed like that dude spent all his free time just making connections and talking to people in the scene and getting shows together. And that's like I don't know. That's kind of the thing you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like if you're just trying to jam and have fun with your friends, honestly, I think that's the way to go because it's so hard to make it in music. And I think like if you're just trying to have fun, the whole point is to have fun. If everything that you're doing around being in a band is fun, then I think you're doing it right. Because I
Sure.
just remember stressing myself out so much in Mortalis and trying to make it a thing and trying to make it a career and man, it really soured me on the whole fucking thing for like a solid year until I finally just let it go.
Well, yeah, because it's the making music and the playing shows is the easy part, right?
Yes,
It was
yeah.
for us at least. We had a lot of eh, all of us were very creative in our own ways.
We could
You
not
would
stop writing music. Like we could not stop
no,
writing songs.
no, we couldn't, and it would get to a point where we were like, okay, we should probably like practice some of these fucking songs so that we could like play some shows with them.
Yeah.
Um, but it's really just all the other stuff, the stuff that I'm not a connection person. I'm not a networking person.
Me
You
fucking
know,
either.
I don't want to feel forced to talk to every member of every band like before and after the show and hit them up and like I
You
don't
know
know.
what? When I did that, I tried doing that so much, and they could just smell the stink of desperation on me, and
Sure.
I hated it. I hated those interactions because I would be talking to bands that I looked up to that I really wanted to play with, and they could just tell. Like I don't know how it's really hard to network as a band and do it casually. Like like I think
I
what happens is that you end up like if you're just hanging out and people like you, they're gonna like your band more because they
yes.
like you. But if you're networking as a band, they can feel that. And I don't think people like it. And so
Sure.
that's
I,
another piece of advice I would definitely give to people. Like, if you're in a band and you're trying to get shows with bands that you like, go to those band shows and just hang out with them after they're done. Tell them how awesome they were, buy them a beer, and then just like chill and talk to them and just
sure.
be yourself. And eventually they're going to find out you're in a band or something, and then they'll check you guys out. It's just kind of, I think that's the way to go.
I I've held a belief that is proved true time and time again, and it's that connections are really the only thing that matter.
Yeah, 100%,
Right.
especially in music scenes in major
Yeah.
cities. It
And
is
so
100% who you know.
they're very well like if you go to Nashville or you go to LA or something, you could probably get a like you could probably network and no one cares because that's what everyone's doing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you're just in a scene of like a stoner metal scene or whatever we were in.
Yeah. Well, it's like
Um,
any cities like punk scene, metal scene, rock scene. Like there's only so many bands playing that genre. You all kind of end up playing a bunch of shows together
yeah,
because
right,
that's kind of just how it is. There's not enough to choose from and a lot of times. And but then you're in cities like Austin where sometimes like there's 50 stoner metal bands that are trying to do it. And it's like, yeah, you end up playing a bunch of shows with similar bands all the time, but then you start noticing the hierarchy of these shows. And you start noticing that you're like, man, these bands tend to play together all the time and they always get the biggest crowds. And then you start realizing
sure,
like, oh, there's still like a social class. There's like a caste system
sure.
when it comes to the local scene as well. And that makes it really difficult to navigate. And that's where I would definitely give a lot of advice on like if you're do not put so much pressure on what you're doing as a band. And it's like what Mortalis did is we didn't prove ourselves or get shows because we were good at talking to people. We proved ourselves and got shows because we were really good at playing our music. Like we didn't fuck up live ever because we practiced 6 hours a week. We would
Yeah,
play the
well,
same song 10 times a night.
yeah. I mean,
Like, and our songs were like 7 minutes long.
we
So
we did the best we could. I
I think
think,
yeah, I mean, we definitely did. I don't remember having a bad show in terms of performance in Mortalis
sure. I
ever.
remember those last couple your throat got fucked up with
Oh, dude, yeah.
possibly Corona, but
I think I got, yeah, I think I got Corona, like in like November or December of 2019. So our last show, I think, was like March or February of 2020, and my voice was completely shot.
Yeah.
It took years to come back. It took years for me to be able to eat spicy food and not like have my throat burning on one specific spot.
Fuck.
It really fucked me up. I
Yeah.
don't know if that
It's
was
fucking.
Corona or not. But okay, how about
Anyway.
let me give a quick I want to give a quick history of the band that me and you were in.
Okay.
Because the way that it came together, I thought was just so fucking amazing and just proved to me that the universe has energy, and if you put certain energy out into the universe responds. So I was working in advertising at this point. I was like in my late 20s, 27, 28, miserable working for this really fucking popular ad agency in Austin. I hated it. I wanted to leave. For about a year, I was mega depressed, drinking a lot, eating a lot. I got really out of shape. I was like literally like, I would pull up to work and park my car in the parking lot and cry for like 10 minutes just because I didn't want to do this anymore, you know? And
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
like very, very stuck and trapped, and I didn't have a way out. So one day, I'm just sitting at my desk, hating my fucking life. And I've been trying to think for about a year, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, where do I go from here? What do I even like? What do I even like to do? Because also I had just left a very long-term relationship and I was
Mm,
very invested in her. So I completely lost myself in that relationship. So when she broke up with me, I didn't know what I liked anymore. Like, I didn't know what made me happy anymore because I was just so focused on her for years.
sure.
So I was like rediscovering myself, and eventually I decided, you know what? I'm quitting my career. I'm going to start a band. And I thought, well, how am I going to make money? I also like coffee. So I'm going to go and work for a coffee roaster. I honestly thought I was going to work for a coffee shop. When I first called Third Coast Coffee, I thought they were a coffee shop.
Yeah. Right.
And the first person I talked to was Luis on the phone.
Oh shit.
And I was just like, hey man, yeah, like, you know, and he was like, well, why do you want to work here? And I told him, oh, I've just always loved coffee. I'd love to like serve coffee and talk to people, blah blah. And he was like, well, we're not a coffee shop. And he kind of explained the whole thing. He's like, he said, do a little bit of research, find out what we do, and if you're still interested, call me back. And I said, okay. And then I did, and I called him back, and he was like, okay, come in for an interview. And I ended up getting a job at a coffee roaster just to make money while I was trying to make a band.
Yeah.
About about a month into working at Third Coast, I think I still hadn't done anything about forming a band. I was like freaking out because I'm like, what the fuck did I do? I just left like a really cushy career, and I was kind of like really questioning myself. And then I mentioned to either Michael, Luis, or Andy that I was thinking about forming a band and that
Because they
I'm a
all worked
guitarist
there.
because they all work there. Turns out the coffee roaster that I started working for had three guys in it that were best friends, have known each other since high school, so like 10 years at that point plus,
Yeah.
and was a drummer, a bassist, and a guitarist. And had been in multiple bands together, and had also been looking to do something in music for like a while, and they just didn't ever do it.
Oh man.
So I leave my job and just happen to work at this coffee roaster that just happened to have three best friends that all played instruments that I couldn't play
Yeah.
and needed a singer. And it was just so fucking perfect. And the first practice was just immediately connection, you know, like immediate, like we had that musical intuition with each
What
other.
What did y'all do for your first practice? Because I'm not really ever sure what to do for those.
Well, I had written several songs. I wrote Nowadays Man. I had written the what's the
Oh, Godfather, is that fuck. I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. I had written like and I think Stab Repeatedly. I had written those three songs. And or no, the house you built that
Yeah, yeah.
so the first I came to that first jam or whatever with three songs that we could learn. and we could like collaborate on and flesh out and everything. So I'd pretty much written those 3 songs in full already. And the first one I showed them was I can't remember the song now, but it was that do 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 like very garage rock,
Yeah.
kind of Cramps style rock. And then we jammed for like 3 hours and wrote the whole fucking song and just played it over and over and over and over
Damn.
again. And it came together. It was like so easy. And our buddy came to our first practice, which made me really nervous. And he
He
brought
came to
his.
you invited a dude to your first practice?
I definitely fucking did not. I don't know who invited him. That was not my choice. I would not. I would not have suggested that, and it made me really nervous when he showed up.
Oh man.
And then, and he brought his super hot girlfriend that he had just started dating. And I'm like,
Oh,
dude, and
yeah.
we're at like Music Lab in Austin,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, come on, man. And they show up and they were like, so do you guys have any songs? And I was like, actually, yeah, we've just been writing this song. And he was like, cool, play it. Like, don't even mind that we're here. We're just like chilling. Like, y'all do whatever you want. And we were like, okay. And then we played the song. And Dan, who's actually in a touring band right now called Crowbot, really cool band if no one's heard of them. Check out Crowbot. Um, he was like, dude, you guys sound like a fucking band already. He was like, this, you guys sound so like cohesive and like connected.
Yeah.
And I felt that too. I felt that immediate connection, and then it just started from there. But I just couldn't believe that, I decided to play music, and I just happened to work at a place that had these dudes that were just waiting for me, basically. It felt like,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know? And it was also one of those things that it's like I pushed the issue and I was just like, hey, like let's jam, let's jam. And then they were like, all right, cool, yeah, let's jam. And I was just like, hey, let's jam again. And I'm like, let's keep going. And I think it was after the first couple times, everyone kind of got the same idea that they were just like, oh shit, this is something. Like we have something here. And
Yeah.
that's where it all started.
And y'all were at the time your name was
De los
uh
Muertos.
De los Muertos.
Yeah, I loved that name. Um, and we changed it, and we shouldn't have fucking changed it, but we changed it, and we changed it to Mortalis, and then yeah, and then about a year in, man, we had, like I said, we had recorded that 6 song demo.
Yeah.
We were in the middle of recording a full length album, and we could not get a show to save our fucking lives.
So, did you not play a show while Andres was in the band?
We played, I think, 2 shows or maybe 3 before he left.
Damn.
And it was literally we were finally getting shows. You know what I mean? It's like we were finally, but
Yeah.
2 of those shows were in a pizza parlor in San Marcos.
Yeah, baby. Fucking Valentino's?
Valentino's.
Yeah.
It was
God,
no one there,
that
you
must be
know.
the smallest stage in all venue.
You could even call it that. It's like that spot by the window where they have like that one table that's by the window and like a bay
Yeah.
window.
It's like a
That's
triangular, like
yeah.
fucking raised wood
Oh,
stage.
and we all got like each member of the band got a free pitcher of beer and we
Jesus
got
Christ.
free pizza every time we played. We fucking loved that place.
I mean,
It
that
felt like
place was
no one went.
great.
Yeah.
It's too bad it closed down, but the old pizza oven stopped working.
Oh, damn, that sucks. And it was probably way too expensive to fix it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, real quick, kind of story for y'all. Valentino's, little place in San Marcos, real good pizza. Um,
Oh, it wasn't.
the old pizza oven just broke. That part that they needed wasn't being made anymore, and so they decided,
Oh.
okay, that's it. Like we can't make pizza, and it's a pizza place, so we're pretty much done. And they had a special, like, everyone come in. We're gonna be having music. We're gonna be having food. Um, and magically, for that night only, the pizza oven started to work again.
Damn, that's crazy.
But it closed thereafter. It's
Damn.
unfortunate because Burn Band had played a good amount of shows there, and um, it was a cool vibe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was a great vibe. Great people that worked there, really nice people. But
But
yeah, man, we played like a house show. We played 2 shows at that pizza spot, and then we played Empire Control Room. somehow in
Yeah, I
Austin.
remember y'all. That was a big deal for y'all.
That was a huge deal. That is a really popular big venue in
Yeah,
Austin, and there
and
was probably like 50 people there, and we were fucking like elated.
I don't think we ever played there.
No, we played at Swan Dive a whole lot. We played at Lost Well a whole lot.
Yeah,
We played
Lost
at
Well.
Mohawk like once or twice.
We played at a what was that brewery?
Oh
Mo-
yeah, yeah.
like Mohawk Brewing or something like that.
Oh, it's called like Metal Works or fucking I don't remember, but yeah,
In any case,
that place was a horrible venue.
so y'all recorded these songs halfway through recording an album. Andres had to leave. How long was it before we met up and y'all were advertising?
It must have been less than a month because
Oh man.
I remember we were still going to Luis's place to be like, let's still keep writing, let's still practice, and just kind of like, let's pretend that this is not gonna die,
Yeah.
and it just felt like we were bleeding out, man. And then yeah, Luis came up with the idea. I'm pretty sure it was Luis came up with the idea to post on Craigslist, and I was really dismissive of it, and I thought it was a horrible idea. And we met one guy through a friend, and then we met you through Craigslist, and
Yeah.
we were jamming with both you guys. I think like we once each, I think, and
Little
the
audition.
song, the song that we asked you to learn, and it was a
Yeah,
test.
but the longest song y'all had, by the way. Thank
It
you
was a
very
test.
much.
It was a test, and
Ay, ay, ay.
it was a 9 minute song, and it was really two songs put together,
Yeah.
and you fucking learned that thing from front to back.
Yep.
We gave you probably like a week, maybe 2 weeks or something.
I think I had a week, and these were. I think you gave me Overflowed and maybe one other one. I can't remember what the other one is.
Well, it was Overflows and Vampires.
Oh yeah, those were kind of yeah, they're played into each other each time we
Yeah,
play them.
it's like Brain Stew and whatever that other song is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
but
and it was
yeah,
a fucking long ass song with all these different parts and like a jam section that didn't even have like a specified length.
no, we were just looking at you to tell us like when are we coming back in, and then yeah, and we changed tempo multiple times in that song.
Yeah.
Like it
And they're
was,
like
and it was the test. It was like if you can play this, you can play anything that we're gonna write,
yeah.
and anything else that we had written at the time. You learned that thing front to back. We were so fucking impressed, and then the other guy didn't, and that was enough. That was enough, and we loved like your vibe, and we just like immediately got along with you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that
It
was just another lucky thing. It was like again, I was like, I can't believe that this is happening again for this band. That it's like we, just like I quit my job, I happen to find these guys, and then one of them leaves, and we just happen to find you, and I was like, this is insane. And then our music only got more complex and more like well written after you had joined too, and it was just like an
yeah.
amazing progression in that band.
Well, it was just such a I mean, talking more about luck, I there have been very few drummers that I feel like have been my style as much as Andres is. Like
Yeah.
listening to those recordings, like I would have recorded the same exact stuff.
Yeah, Andres is a great drummer, and I know that Taylor Hawkins was like a huge influence on him, and you can
Mm,
hear it a lot.
sure.
Um, but yeah, man, it was just such an amazing like progression and amazing like series of events, and and unfortunately, and I think it probably happened with a lot of bands, the pandemic came around and it just dissolved. Like we just couldn't keep it going.
I remember that last we were talking, the pandemic was just happening and we were talking like, should we get together tomorrow? Like, should we hold this off for a week? And we were like, yeah, we'll postpone it for a week or two, and then we'll get back into things when things have died down. And of course that didn't happen.
Yep.
Um, and it sucks because we were this close to finally like recording this little EP that we had going, and it was gonna be so good. And
Yeah.
we've fantasized a couple times about like finishing it And
Yeah, because we were finally starting to incorporate a lot of Latin stuff into the music that, like, half the three-quarters of the band are, from South America or of Latin Hispanic descent. And yeah, we were doing some really unique fucking stoner metal stuff,
yeah,
incorporating reggaeton stuff, reggaeton type beats and
yeah,
just
yeah.
Latin jazz and Latin rock stuff. And it just would
Ugh.
have been so unique and cool. And
I'm I'm still of the mind that we should just record some fucking vocals for it and put it out.
we never
Honestly,
recorded anything.
we had demos,
Yeah,
you
we had
know?
demos. Yeah.
We got these full demos. They're not the best quality, but they're like good enough.
Yeah.
In any case, what are the things that you think worked with Mortales and didn't work with Mortales and like works for bands, doesn't work for bands?
I think a big thing that is really important to be in a band and to keep that band going is making sure that everyone's on the same page of what are we trying to do here.
Yes, yes. I think uh, first off, as a basis, it should be seen as a responsibility that you got to put time into every week, you know?
Yeah.
But then after that, I was trying to start a band here like a year ago, and I put in the ad, hey, I want to get a band, I want to play shows, I want to record, make merch, all that stuff. I get together with this person who responded, and they just didn't really care. I was there for a month, and I was like, we were jamming for a month, and I finally asked, like, where do you want to go with this? And they're like, oh, I don't know, whatever happens, happens. It was like immediately like, okay, I gotta stop here. I think one thing that is huge in making a band is if you're gonna meet strangers and play with new people in your life, you have to meet them like at a cafe or a neutral ground first. And
Yes.
then after that, if the vibe is good, you can pick up instruments like a week later.
I remember when we met you, like, I mean, this is for real. That's great advice because when we met you, I made it a point to ask, do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you do any drugs? Like I remember asking you, like, do you smoke weed? Do you like to drink? Like blah blah. Are you comfortable with all that? Because it's like, you fucking meet someone
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, hey man, like let's jam. And you talk to them on Facebook or whatever, and you go and you find out that they're like super into ketamine. And you're like, oh fuck, man, I didn't know that I was getting into this. And it
And
reminded me of when I had my internship at a record label, and the first time I met the CEO, he was like, so what are you into? And I was like, oh man, I just love like reggae and I love, punk and blah blah. And he was like, no, 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 what are you into? Do you like shrooms? Do you like alcohol? Do you smoke weed? And I was like, oh shit. And he was like, yeah, I want to
and
get a level set here.
but I feel like that's an extremely necessary part of a band, especially starting off, because there have been multiple times I've tried to start things with people, and it just did not mesh. We just didn't
Yeah.
mesh with each other, and it ended up being this like 2 month long prolonged thing. Because
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to ditch someone you met at a cafe one time than it is to stop, like, cut it off with someone you've been like meeting at your house for 3 weeks. You
Yeah, and
know?
I would say another thing too, there are plenty of like jam rooms and businesses in major cities that have rooms available for you to rent,
Yeah,
hourly rates or whatever
sure.
for you to jam and practice music and everything. If you don't have the freedom to do it at the where you live, if you don't have like, a house that has really good, noise insulation or whatever, like go find these places because it gives you a safe place to do that stuff. B,
Yeah,
the only other people there are doing the same thing you're doing. So the chance of meeting people is really good. And again,
sure.
it's a public place to go to.
Yeah,
And I think again, like you said, a neutral spot. It's like the first time you're going to jam with someone or practice or whatever, go to one of these jam rooms, spend the $20 to jam for an hour or whatever. It's usually not even that much. And then
I mean,
and then that's also a way it's just like they didn't see your house. They don't know what you own.
yeah, yeah.
Like it's
And
it's
honestly,
weird that
like,
you do kind of have to be like worried about that sometimes. It's like you don't know who you're meeting,
you don't
unless
you
you know
don't
these
really
people.
even like. pushing aside like the amount, like how serious they're gonna take things, you know,
Yeah,
and like getting on the same level about things. I don't even touch instruments the first time I meet these people, because like you have to you have to vibe with them in some way.
exactly. Way more importantly than if they're good at their instrument is, do we even get along?
Yeah, right.
Because
And
you're gonna have to see this person at least once a week if you're trying to like really be consistent. And it's true. It's like you have to make sure that you guys get along, that you have things in common. That and again, it's like, and why do you want to be in a band? Like I remember
yeah,
you responding, you're just like, I just graduated college. I want to be in a band. I want to tour. Like I want music to be my career. And we
yeah.
were just like, okay, perfect. Like this is exactly who we're
And
looking for.
it's so funny because I remember uh one of these, I think I had passed the audition and we did the final like celebration ashes in the band thing at like some bar that y'all like to go to. And I remember at the bar being like, "Look, guys, I'm career minded. I'm gonna take all the money. I'm gonna get my share of all the money we get, and I'm gonna take it for myself." And then like I never did that. It all just
Yeah.
went to like the band fund, you know. Like I don't know. It's just insane luck because we all of us vibed so well so quickly,
Yeah.
you know. And it's
It was like, again, it was almost, it felt meant to be.
yeah, which is not is rarely ever the case, and it's something you kind of got to work through.
Yeah.
Um,
And it takes a lot of persistence, man. If you
yeah,
don't know people that play other instruments, it takes a lot of persistence of, again, like going to shows, going to these practice rooms, like going to open mic nights. Like
yeah,
that's where you're going to meet people. Talk to your coworkers. Like little do you know, maybe fucking, Jennifer plays piano and you're like, "What?
yeah,
You play
right,
piano? I play drums." And all of a sudden it's like you got like a fucking Ben Folds 5 situation going. And it's I think and that's a like it's such a I think it's so important to not just like get along with the people that you play with and have similar visions of what you're trying to do, but also like you might have all of that aligned, that might all be fucking on the same page, but your schedules are completely different and it's just not going to work.
right. Yeah, it's so much stuff needs to go right. It's
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 really
almost
difficult.
like
You have to fail more than you will succeed when you're trying, not just being in a band, but forming a band. You're going
yeah,
to fail more than you succeed.
I've equated it before to like starting like seeking a relationship.
Yeah.
Um like getting on the date scene and meeting all these people and deciding who you're going to invest time into, and if you're both like, you know, if they work nights and you work days, and that's going to kind of fuck things up. And
Mhm.
if they don't want kids and you want kids and like stuff like that, that it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's hard to vet for these things, and feelings change over time as well.
Yeah.
And
And
so
that's
yeah,
yeah.
it's you have to be very lucky. You have to be very persistent. You have to kind of keep your head up because this shit can get real disheartening with like the more people you talk to who are just like fucking 15 like so far away from you that you can't even meet up with them, you
Yeah.
know,
I
or
mean,
like
and then you're seeing these people that are these bands that are more successful than you around you, and you think like, well, what are we doing wrong that they're doing
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And you find out that a lot of times it's like they have two full-time jobs. They have their full-time job and then they have the band.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
like if you're willing to put in a 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week in promoting your band and marketing and networking and doing all that. I mean, we're talking about, like you have a 9 to 5, but this is going to be your 5 to 9. It's like when you're off work at 5 p.m., that's your
it's
time,
it's tough.
it's
It,
really fucking hard.
and we spent a good amount of time doing stuff for the band, but we were, I don't know, like I don't think we were wanting to tour. We were
No,
talking about touring a lot, but it just we weren't putting in the work to make it that happen,
because
really.
that's really fucking hard too. Even to plan
Yeah.
like a 4-day tour to go around Central Texas is fucking
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
It's
And
really hard.
it just like you will hardly ever make money from it. Any money you make is just going to go into the cost of what it was.
Mm.
And it's tough. It's fucking tough. And we might have even gotten to a certain point where we were just like, I was very comfortable playing like a show a week or like a show every
Yeah.
other week, you
Yeah.
know? And just like as long as we got to play, as long as we got to play to new people, as long as we got to see these interesting bands,
Yeah.
you know? And it's,
So, what did you? Because I know there were moments of, frustration and feeling disheartened and
yeah.
disenchanted a little bit when we were in Mortalis. What helped you get through those humps?
I mean, honestly, the main thing is that I just really liked the music we were making.
Yeah.
I that's the last thing that we haven't even touched on. That we were lucky enough to vibe. We were lucky enough to have a good schedule. We were lucky enough to
Play
like
with other
afford.
talented people too, like everyone was
Yeah.
talented.
But at the end of the day, I just love the music we were making. I really believed in it. I still believe Death Rattle Valley, the last album we made, is like one of my favorite artistic things that
It's
I've
the
done.
it is the one musical thing I've done that I'm most proud of.
And I had a Look Alive was us kind of getting to know each other, and honestly, I think the songs I was on might have been kind of the more floppy songs on that album.
I mean,
But
if they were, which I don't agree, but if they are, it's because we were still getting to know each other, and
yeah,
you know,
but
it's
I
it, it's hard.
it's the reason I put so much time into that and into like Burn Band at the time and maybe a third band, you know. And I put all this time into like getting the spacings between the songs, making the transitions, uh, us brainstorming the title, what the cover's gonna look like. Um,
I love how the title of the album came to me, the
how
Look
did it come to
Alive. I was driving and I never listened to the radio, but I like couldn't decide what to listen to, so I just put on some hip hop station in Austin, and they were playing a song by Ray Smurder, I think, or Ray Smart. It's like
I haven't heard of them.
they
Oh,
they were like black. They
Ray
did Black
Semmer or
Beatles,
something.
yeah, Sremerd or something. Um, they were playing a song by them, and I was just like, "What is this song called?" And it was called "Look Alive." And I thought, what a perfect fucking name for an album. And I immediately texted you guys.
And but I don't know. The thing that kept me going through never making any money, losing fucking money,
Hmm.
contributing to the studio time, the merch, all that,
Hmm.
was that's just that I love the music and I believed in the music and I believed that we could do something,
Hmm.
you know? And it sucks that it never got to a point where we could just do it daily. We've all kind of gone our separate ways. We're all in different places now.
Well,
Um,
what I thought was the weirdest thing looking back on it was because there were, I mean, obviously there's moments day to day, week to week where you're either psyched or you're frustrated or whatever. Because if you really care enough, like that's how it's going to be. It's like an emotional roller coaster a lot.
yeah,
And the weirdest thing to me was there was a moment that we had an apex in the band. Like we had a moment that we were peaking with the
sure.
quality of shows that we were getting, the amount of plays, like the people who
Yeah.
wanted to play with us. We had like big local bands asking us repeatedly to play with them. And that we were starting to peak. At some point, that just dropped off. And it wasn't very gradual. It just dropped off. And we never bounced back from it. Ever.
I don't know. I think it's I you can't expect to just
Constantly keep going up and keep going up and keep going. It's like we had that natural thing that we were like getting more and more popular, and then we got up there and we got up there, and it was just like this kind of steep decline, and then it never felt like it went back, you know?
I
And I
mean,
was like,
I
what went wrong there? Where
I
it's like, because that's gonna happen to people. It's like it happens with every performer. Like a comedian fucking kills one night and he's on top of the world, and the next night he bombs and he like hates his fucking life. You know, and that's just I feel like that happens a lot, and I don't know
I
how A, you get through that emotionally because I wasn't able to, and B, how like what can a band do to keep that going, to start going back up again.
honestly, I know what period you're talking about. We were like
Yeah.
playing less shows, um, and we weren't really talking to other people. But I don't think that I think we still had some upward momentum when the pandemic hit because we were making this new EP that we were really excited about, and we were gonna make like music videos and have like some single art. Um,
Yeah, I forgot about the music videos.
yeah,
I
we
think I
only
think that's what we did. We kind of went in on ourselves. Whenever we noticed that things were slowing down, we were just we went in
yeah.
and we started working on other creative um projects within the band. It was like, well, at this point, like, okay, if we're having a hard time getting shows for some reason this season. You're right. Like what we did was just like, okay, well, then we've never made a music video. Let's do that.
Which fucking we never got done. We did one shot of it because Luis had to have his fucking like 4K $600 camera or whatever. Um,
Yeah, we definitely we did the classic like we overthought it, and then it got so intimidating because we made it so complicated and so difficult to pull off that we just didn't do it.
and you remember I made fucking storyboards
Yeah.
like for Bring All Your Fire. I had a storyboard that would like went along with the music, and
Yeah.
I made a video for Golem. Uh,
Yeah.
but in any case, we you remember the one of the last shows we played was at Mohawk.
Hmm.
I don't think we were I think we were going to get right back up into it as soon as that EP came out. We had new stuff to give. The thing at the time was that a lot of bands were putting out like
Singles.
weekly singles. And we just like that
We couldn't wrap our heads around that.
we wanted to get to that point. We had just started self-producing. You
Hmm.
remember making our own
Hmm.
stuff in Luis's house. Um and I don't know. We just couldn't keep up. And nowadays it's all about TikTok and social media, and like bands have to be trying to make these viral videos, and
It's so hard.
it's so hard, and the experience that we have from music is likely very old and might even just be like bad information, but
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think
I
about it till just now. This might all be completely outdated.
the
All of our
thing
advice and our, like our and the way
well,
that we handled things, like this might. You're right. We might be outdated at this point.
here's the thing that will never be outdated is meeting with people, getting a good vibe, setting intentions and restating intentions.
That's yes. Well, very well said.
I think having a passion for whatever's going on, whatever it is, that's always going to be universal. The great thing now is that we've gotten a lot better, more ways to do things virtually with people you can't physically be with.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
the access to people is bigger than ever
yeah,
now,
and
and the access that people have to you to discover you is bigger than ever.
the access
Sure.
to recording equipment, the access to cheap DAWs is more accessible than ever, which means more music, more bad music, and more great music.
Yeah, more people who deserve to be discovered will be discovered, and I think another thing that will never be outdated is be creative about everything in the band. Like be like bands are not just music. That is not the only way that you can like showcase creativity in a band.
Yeah,
Um, think like even little things as like stage dressing. Like, oh, this band
yeah,
always brings candles, or fucking remember Duel would always light incense and put it right in front of his microphone every
yeah.
time,
And
you
I
know?
I remember back then we didn't really have any kind of dress code or anything. You know,
No.
we would just come in whatever,
We looked like we just came in from fucking sitting on our couch, you
which
know?
is like, I don't know, it's fine, but if you have a band that has a like decided upon kind of theme or wardrobe, people are going to remember them more.
Hmm.
It's going to be easier for people to remember, oh, those are the guys that were all dressed in like black jumpsuits or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
That's very true.
and it just brings across a vibe of almost professionality, almost maturity, maybe.
Because then when you're starting when you're creative in every aspect of the band, stage dressing, wardrobe, um, aesthetic of anything like any visual representation of your band, your merch, and all that stuff. That is when I feel like musicians evolve to artists. And
Sure.
I feel like that
And
is when you're in a really, really powerful creative space is when you're practicing and expressing and using your creativity in five different mediums at the same time. And when
yeah.
all of that cohesively comes together around your band, that shit will get you so fucking far.
Yeah, well, because we were lucky enough to all be very creative in our own ways, and like
Yeah,
Luis being an amazing artist, some
amazing.
of the things that we did for our band re-inspired me to do more. You know, because we
Right.
had these crazy T-shirts that like I am so I don't have anymore. I don't have a single fucking Mortales T-shirt, which
Oh,
tears me apart because that shit looked crazy.
oh, you got to get one from Luis because I'm sure he has a few
Oh, dude,
extras.
maybe I'll get him to ship me one.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. It's tough to make a band, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than you think. But at the end of the day, it should be something you're passionate about. It should be fun, and I don't know. You
If
should.
it's just fun, that's fine.
That's yeah, of course, right?
Like, yeah, I honestly think that's healthier mentally.
Because that's
If you're
like
just trying to have fun, it's being in a band is fucking awesome.
that's pretty much what we've gotten. The point we've gotten to with this podcast, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the same thing that happened with Mortalis happened with this podcast where we started peaking. We seemed to be hitting a stride. We were getting, like, in my opinion, a lot of plays. We were getting like multiples week over week, like multipliers in terms of
Yeah.
like the number of plays we were getting. And one day, one thing I did, I
Dude,
can
I don't
point,
think it was that thing.
it's 100%. That's what it was.
He,
Because we went from almost like high double digits, and some triple digits like per episode, like in very quickly to 10, 7, 19, like 13, like that. It was just wild. That one thing, I think I fucked the algorithm. But anyway, but what happened was like we were peaking and then we started having the natural decline that's going to happen after that. And I feel like we're starting to get back up a little bit. And it's because I decided like we made this podcast to have fun, and I made it into a thing that I put a bunch of pressure on it, and I got all these expectations, and I had all these high hopes, and
mm,
I was like, maybe this is my career now because I hate my career. And I was like, maybe this is going to be our thing. And then it didn't become that. And it became very frustrating for me for like, again, almost a year. Like I almost ruined this for
yeah.
myself.
Well, it wasn't without foundation. Because
Right.
at that same moment that we were getting those plays and we were doing a lot, we were recording, I think, 3 episodes a week
Oh,
at
damn.
some point, and we
Okay.
were live streaming and doing all that. At that point, we had someone reach out to us, almost giving us like a deal to be on their podcast network. They would
Yeah.
pay us per episode, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
We're
We
going
were
to
putting
start
a
getting
lot of
ad
effort into it.
revenue, be on a
Yeah.
network. We were going to be part of like this thing.
The thing is, like, for whatever reason, it didn't go through. Um, it just never ended up happening, and we tried our best, but it's hard to come back from that. And we took some time. I think we got over it. We stopped doing the like albums that came out the same day of artists that could or could not be a miserable experience.
Yeah.
We're back to kind of roots of like classic fucking records that we really like and just being a little
Yeah.
more lax about it. And I think we're in a nice place now, man. And maybe someday we'll just get a wild hair up our ass to really like put some fucking juice in this thing again, put some fucking nos in this thing again.
Yeah, but
But
then again, it's like I think about that and I'm like, I don't if now the podcast like pool has become so fucking saturated that it's just really as an independent podcast, it's not we have to be realistic and realize that it's not really possible to make this into a thing.
yeah,
Into like
that
a money making thing. Like it's just not
it
possible.
music and like bands and podcasts have kind of evolved on this same thing where like it's mostly clips from TikTok.
Yeah.
Like anything from a podcast you get see is going to be this minute, 2 minute long thing of just this short clip. Maybe it's funny, maybe it's educational, but that's what it's all about these days is getting those clips and getting people onto the podcast through that.
It's true. It's very true. And I find that even like podcasts I don't listen to, I see the clip and I go like, "Oh, that's a good that was interesting." And then I just like don't go to the podcast ever. And I don't check
Well,
it out.
I don't know.
And
We
I
it,
think it's just it's just human nature, I feel like. And yeah, and but it is one of those things. It's like again, our intention when we went into this kind of brings kind of like goes full circle was literally just to have fun and talk about music. And
yeah.
then I made it into a thing that it wasn't supposed to be in my head. And then I'm back at the thing. It's like, oh yeah, okay. Let's like I went back to the whole point was just to hang out with my friend and talk about music, you know? So it's like, and we're doing that. So success, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if you form a band just to have fun and then you make a band and you're having fun, success.
Success. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all it has to be, you know?
And
And
there's no shame in it. You know,
no.
I like if you fucking shoot for the
How is there
stars,
shame? Oh, no shame in like what? Failing if you're trying to make it as a band and then you don't?
like I don't know, I feel like a lot of people for a lot of projects, I've felt this way for a long time. Is that if I make a fun project, it has to be marketable, it has to be profitable in some way, or else
Yeah.
it's like a waste of time, a quote unquote waste of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no shame in just having this fun thing where you just jam with a band, maybe you play a couple shitty shows, and that's it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I really envy people who I think that's the thing is like if you're trying to start a band just to have fun, make sure that you're happy in other aspects of your life. Because with me, it's like I fucking hate my job. I hate the career that I've been in for 10 years now at this point. And so any new thing that I discover that I enjoy, my brain immediately goes to, is this going to be the thing that finally gets you out of your fucking shit ass career that you hate? And it puts so much pressure on every creative because I just want to do something creative. So it puts so much pressure on any creative endeavor that I start doing because I'm so desperate to get out. You know, I'm so desperate to for something
Mm.
new and something I enjoy. So like if you're starting a band to have fun, hopefully like you're in a good relationship, you know, or like you're just happy with your life in general. Because if you're not, that band that's just gonna just for fun or whatever, it could be 50-50 in my opinion. Like it's either gonna be like, dude, this is the one fun thing that I have and I love it so much, or it's gonna be like, oh my God, I need to make this into a thing because I got nothing else. You know, and then
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
when if you're not on the same page, like you push people away and people just don't vibe with that. And
Yeah.
um yeah, and it's a difficult thing. I think being a creative person and try and stopping yourself from trying to make creativity into a profession is really difficult because you think, well, I have so much fun doing this, being creative. Why can't this just be my job?
Yeah. Right.
And
And that
and
can
it's really fucking hard.
I don't
I think non-creative people honestly don't understand that. I genuinely don't. people, I don't think a lot of people understand how difficult it is to be like, I say creative person, like someone who does art of some sort is what I mean. Like
Yeah.
not someone who's like good at making up games. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
uh,
sure.
yeah, like you're really good at scrapbooking. Like I mean like like an artist. I think it's genuinely soul crushing to not do art when you are an artist.
But on the other side of that, when you make your passion your job, it becomes your job.
When you put the
And you
pressure of
hate
having to make money with it as
and
a that's the really fucking shitty part about the world.
like I my roommate and best friend Lily had been a professional artist for 2 or 3 years
Okay, that's
and was
right.
getting by on Patreon, and just 3 years ago just couldn't do it anymore. Just had to stop. And only just now has started like drawing again.
Okay,
And it can be
just for
that
fun.
he's just finally just for fun.
Yeah,
Like it's so hard if to get that pressure off of you and to make it feel like it is work,
yeah,
when it
yeah.
should be something that is not work and that helps you recover from being at work.
Right.
But
Yeah, it's true. But genuinely, like if you're listening to this and you are a creative person, a music, probably a musician if you're listening to it, but if you're a painter or you draw or you're a dancer or a fucking cook, if you love cooking and it's just like your thing, like just you the hardest thing about making a creative endeavor into a career and a money making thing is finding still being able to find the enjoyment in it when you are not doing well in it.
sure.
I think that is the hardest fucking part. And it's been the hardest thing for me and every single creative thing I've ever tried in my life. And it's been a lot. And and it's hard. And I think again, like especially being in a band, a lot of it is like fucking persistence, you know?
Yeah,
And doing something when you don't fucking feel like doing it, but you know that you should.
sure.
And I think that's a huge thing. So it's like, oh man, like I almost, like I feel like if I listened to this episode, I wouldn't want to start a band after this. Like genuinely.
Well, I think most of our advice have been for people who want to start a band and want to like get some degree of momentum going and want a
Yeah.
better idea of what it's like to kind of have a band as a second job or even as just a passion project.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Like I have
but
my neighbor, um, he was jamming one day and it was really loud. And so I had to go up there and be like, "Hey bro, like this isn't gonna work. You can't be jamming." Like, and it was bad. And he texted me the other day. He's like, "Hey man, I've done a couple things to like fix the noise issue." And he was like, we would really love to keep being able to practice here. The last guy it didn't bother him, and I was just like, were they deaf? But he was like, like it didn't. We really would love to figure something out. Do you think we could test it one day? And I told him, I was like, absolutely, man. Like I was like, I've been in a band. I know what it's like.
yeah,
Like I totally get it. I go, if we can fix it to where it's not super loud, then I would love for you to continue jamming up there and blah blah. And his text back, and this guy's I think in his 50s, and his text back was, dude, thanks for letting me live my dream of like being in a band and just like playing music. And I love
yeah,
I was very like nothing to me. We were just texting and just being neighbors and just being courteous and whatever. And then he said that, and I was just like, oh man, I totally fucking get it. Like
yeah, sure.
if there's anyone that's gonna understand, like, oh God, we've been jamming here for years and now we might not be able to anymore, and like, oh, this sucks. And it's like, I get it. I get it. I don't want to be that guy, but I might have to be that guy.
Damn. Well,
But it's just like that's I don't know, man. I think if thinking about it now, if I ever made another band with people, it would I would only want to jam, write, and record, and that's it.
Damn.
I don't ever want to play another show again, ever.
Dude, that's my fucking favorite part of being in a band is playing the shows.
You like blossomed when we played live. Like you
Oh
were
yeah.
just like you fucking were just like a different person, and I just was so like uncomfortable and shy, and
Well,
because as a
you were the front man, you were the singer and guitarist, so I
yeah,
feel
and
like
it's
there's a lot more pressure on you.
there's so much pressure on me every night, and it was just so yeah, it was just so stressful for me. So I didn't. I don't think I would enjoy it anymore, but I loved playing with you guys and recording with you guys. I fucking
Sure.
loved that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I would totally do that again.
we could probably do a whole episode on what our experience in the studio was like because we were pretty involved with that process as well.
Very hands-on with that.
But I
Yeah.
feel like we probably been talking a little too long.
Holy shit, for real.
I don't got the fucking timestamp in front of me, but probably longer than anyone is willing to listen to us.
Dude, yeah, I got to start caramelizing onions.
But thank you all for listening. We usually talk about albums that we really enjoy. Sometimes we have these chit chats about music related topics, such as what your favorite video game soundtrack is, what are the worst music tropes in movies,
Yeah.
and other things like that. If you want to check it out, go check it out. We have 3 years worth of episodes. There ought to be one band or one album that you like that you're curious about.
Yeah, man. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, we're gonna have a QA section, and I want to know like if what are y'all's experiences if you guys have been in bands, like what have your experiences been in forming a band and playing shows, and what advice would you give other people that are thinking about starting a band? If
Yeah,
you're listening to this on YouTube, leave us those comments, man, because I'd love to hear it. Like, like I feel like 90% of my friends are musicians, but we don't really ever talk about this, like we talk
sure.
about music and stuff, but I haven't had, this is probably the longest conversation I've had about what it's like being in a band.
I could probably talk about something like this all day because they're just like
Oh,
I don't know.
genuinely. And what
It could be
sucks is
very
that
involved.
100%. And what sucks is that I think for the most part, I would be kind of complaining, to be honest.
Oh boy,
I'd be
man,
complaining about how hard it is to be in a band.
it's it's fucking tough. There's been I think back to some of the bands that had a little more drama in it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, not ours. But
Yeah, there was
holy
like no
shit.
drama in our band. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, it was fucking no drama llama, man.
Yeah.
Some of that shit, like, I don't know, it's all these people being vulnerable, doing creative stuff. It could be very fucking personal, and it could be
Yes.
very,
Oh,
there could be a lot of fucking drama that, like, I look back at now and, like, what the fuck were we even, like, fighting about? You
dude, but
know?
it's such a
Like,
vulnerable place to show someone a song that you wrote to see if your band
yeah,
wants to play it,
yeah.
like, oh God, it's so nerve-wracking every time.
And just, like, conversations of, like, are you really serious about the band? And, like, I
Oh,
don't
bro, I
know.
feel like you're like not really, we've all
Which
written a song and you haven't written a song yet, man.
which is something you should talk about at the start as soon as possible when you meet someone,
Yes.
get those expectations leveled. In any case, we gotta go. But I'll see you guys later. See you on the
I
next
won't.
episode where we'll talk about who fucking knows what's coming out next.
Yeah, we're all out of whack anyway. Um,
Our next
but yeah.
album, though, is gonna be Hello Nasty.
Uh,
Really looking forward to that.
yeah, that's gonna be fun.
I've really been enjoying listening to that album.
Well, Ash, this was good.
Lucas, this was good.
Bye,
Bye, y'all.
buddies. Freaking bye.